On the surface, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance does not appear to be a serious game. In the very first mission, you fight a giant robot on foot, run down a clock tower as it shoots missiles at you, slice it into hundreds of pieces in over-the-top action, have a duel with a caked-up samurai, before getting your limbs chopped off and becoming a fully badass cyborg ninja warrior. Its gameplay and fundamental design is so simple, and so easy to understand from its opening act, that even Elon Musk could grasp it. You are here to have a fun time as you cut things up and listen to banger tunes. But underneath all of it is something deeper I'd like to explore. There's something here to understand about oneself and our actions. I can't quite think of the word. Monsoon, can you help me?
Means the DNA of the soul.
This is Metal Gear after all. The scale has to be a perfect balance of silly and serious. It's just this time it's cranked up to 11. Everything you can do in Revengeance oozes cool. You will accidentally hit a phenomenal combo by spamming random buttons, only to do something 10 times impressive a few minutes later, repeating the same process. There is no game like Revengeance. The only thing I think comes close is the DMC series. Revengeance is a pure dopamine train with you getting ran over on the tracks, enjoying every second of it. There's only around 6 hours of gameplay, which would normally be quite short. However, Revengeance is so perfect at pacing that it's not an issue, for the reason that within those 6 hours is the perfect hit. There is a constant bombardment of new ideas and foes to fight without it ever getting too overwhelming. By the end you will be at least somewhat familiar with every enemy's strength, weakness and mechanic, that you will be confident enough to try it out on harder difficulties, only to get one shot by a rocket launcher off screen. I haven't even begun to mention a core aspect to the game, which is the challenging yet rewarding bosses. Each boss fight and music track so perfectly placed. Whenever I hear Rules of Nature as I tear down Metal Gear Ray, my body locks in. The same can be said for every fight and its corresponding track. No two bosses are the same, whether it be a French woman with arms, a master of magnetism, or a hyper-nationalist warmonger. All offer the player a unique challenge, with them having some sort of gimmick attached, requiring a certain method to take them down, usually in the most over-the-top and bombastic way possible. Revengeance is truly for everyone, no matter the skill level. I believe anyone can have a good time with this game because it is just so entertaining. But what I truly appreciate about Revengeance, above all else, is how it ties this insane gameplay into an utterly chaotic story about memes and the freedom of oneself, as well as synergizing all of that with Raiden's fascinating arc. He is a character that is like any one of us, slightly autistic and afraid of women. Raiden is someone that has plenty of room to grow. Metal Gear Solid 2 leaves him to find his own path, which is what he's been doing up until this point, and here Raiden's still figuring it out. Of course now this is Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, so naturally he's come to the conclusion that violence is awesome. War, along with the violence that comes with it, has always been a prevalent theme throughout Metal Gear, tending to paint the idea very negatively, showing the true horrors that come from it. Revengeance has a different approach, while still sticking with prevalent themes. It straight up tells you that yes, war is bad, that these guys you are killing have lives of their own as well as families to provide for, that they don't have much of a choice when it comes to why they fight, but none of that matters because Blade Mode is fun. There are tons of games that tell you violence is bad, that you should feel bad for what you are doing, but rarely the complete opposite. I'm glad Revengeance brings this up on account of the fact that it would be weird if it didn't. You know how, like, in Uncharted, it's never mentioned the fact Nathan Drake has a body count higher than John Wick? It's because that would create a black hole of ludonarrative dissonance that would probably make you dislike the character, or at least question why he isn't in jail. Metal Gear Rising embraces its ultra-violent tone because Raiden accepts that's just what type of person he is. Now, I'm not advocating violence. I'm not saying if you want to fight people you should go beat up criminals or cyborgs. I'm stating that in this game, in this context, hell yeah, I want to kill the robots. The point isn't to say all of what you are doing is good, but to say, hey, this is a video game, that this is a fictional character who is extremely good at killing. It wants you to indulge in its mechanics, having a fun time as you do, even if this is war. Just let it rip. Each mission is building up to Jack the Ripper coming back. Every power-up and weapon gets you closer and closer to Raiden's true nature, a character who fights with so much animosity, protecting the weak by understanding who they are using it to the best of their ability to fight for what they believe in. I don't know, there's probably some Daredevil parallel to be found in there somewhere. Raiden's transition is then finally complete, not by him talking to anyone about how he feels, but Raiden expressing his true self on the battlefield, having an epic duel to the death with a samurai named Sam. Both characters are two sides to the same coin. If Raiden represents autism, then Sam is the embodiment of pure ADHD. Sam has a lot in common with Raiden, just on the other side, and a tad more chaotic. However, he has accepted who he is. Raiden has begun to do the same after his fight with Monsoon, no longer viewing his weapon as a tool, instead accepting its purpose. Both characters choose to fight for the reason that that's just what they want to do. I think, on a more real note, the game is making a point about accepting who we are down to our core, understanding there's no changing what that looks like. Revengeance isn't exactly subtle, though I do think that's what the subtext is, or at least what I get from it. If you want to succeed, you must accept yourself. The riveting song There Will Be Blood that plays throughout the Sam fight practically confirms this in the lyrics. Sam's boss is two warriors accepting who they are in a beautifully epic fight, and I think there's something in that to gain, whether it's just enjoyment playing the game, or something more spiritual. Of course, this isn't all Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance has to offer.
We're all sons of a patriots now! Playing college ball, you know. Making the mother of all omelets here, Jack. Can't fret over every egg. Nanomachines Son.
Even if you had no prior knowledge of Metal Gear Rising before you clicked on this video, there is at least a high probability that you have seen a post or meme that is in reference to the final boss of the game, a United States Senator, Stephen Armstrong. The cultural impact that this one singular character who has around 20 to 30 minutes screen time has had since Revengeance release is honestly incredible. It seems whatever corner of the internet you go to, something regarding him will be there. I know for a fact that someone by now would have already typed in the comments the words "Nanomachines Son." He has been memed and referenced to death, influencing a whole new generation to check out not only this game, but Metal Gear Solid in general, which is extremely ironic considering the fact the game is after all about memes influencing people. Now of course when Revengeance talks about memes, it is not referring to the funny JPEG we're all familiar with, rather the information and beliefs we inherit from others, usually those close to us. But in a more meta, most likely even unintentional sense, yes, memes as in the funny things you see online can be used to influence opinions. Think about how many people started watching The Walking Dead or Dexter because memes about the shows blew up. Opinions are very easily influenced if people are exposed to certain things for long enough, and that's a point the game is also making when it comes to memes in the traditional sense. And it's asking if this is the right way of living.
The memes.
Blade Wolf, an artificial intelligence killer robot dog that you fight early on in the story's arc, is about learning to not listen to the programming given, creating his own directives off of the information he learns, arguing against the memes he's been given. In the real world, I do think some people have a narrow-minded viewpoint because of the information they've had shared or were told to believe that is most likely untrue or exaggerated heavily. Moreover, unwilling to consider other ideals, not listening to anything that they don't believe in, or more accurately, what they just don't have proper understanding of. Hell, I used to be like this. Not to an insane extent, though I'd think something was true or live by a certain belief because someone or something told me that I should think that way. I blame CinemaSins for this. Subjectivity tends to get confused for objectivity whenever something is shared, the meme spreading till the subjectiveness becomes objective through word of mouth. Eventually, the only thing that will be true is what the last person to speak said. The Last Jedi is not that bad of a film, by the way. Like MGS2 predicted, trivial information will get in the way. Revengeance is a game that is living in that disturbing future. As Armstrong states, we're all sons of the Patriots now, inheriting the memes and philosophies of those who came before, however unsure of where to go with them. But Armstrong is a politician, so naturally everything he says he believes in is a lie. What he actually wants to do is drive America and maybe even the world into a state of anarchy, crumbling everything we know into the ground, so going forward only the strong survive. It is the most Metal Gear Solid plan to ever Metal Gear Solid. This is then stopped by Raiden in one of the most dramatic fights in all of fiction, ultimately coming to an end with Raiden victorious, with the United States Senator's parting words being a "we're not so different, you and I" speech, before Raiden rips out his nanomachine heart. It is utterly bonkers. What I think the game is trying to say here, what I think Metal Gear Rising Revengeance's final message is that the status quo will always surround the world. Nothing will ever change in a truly drastic way. But maybe, as an individual, you can work on finding the purpose of why you do things, what influences you to do them. Like MGS2, it is advocating you to think for yourself, to not always listen to the memes. But how could you not, especially when they're so damn funny? Maybe I'm wrong about all of this when it comes to Revengeance. Maybe it just is an over-the-top action game that is purely a joking spectacle not meant to be taken seriously. I don't think it is, but hey, maybe I'm wrong. It is a game that's hype radiates through the full 6 hours. Any message or meaning goes by in a heartbeat, perhaps even getting lost in translation. Once something is said, you quickly move on to the next insane thing, brushing over any ideals straight to cutting things up. Because when it comes to Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, there is only one clear guarantee. Metal Gear Rising means a lot to me, obviously, and what I got from it might be completely different to how you feel. You might think there's nothing here to pick up on, because, I mean, look at it. Either way, I hope you enjoyed, or what I said resonated with you. I'd like to shout out Jacob Geller, whose essay on this game is phenomenal. It was really hard to come up with points that I thought separated my video from his. I'll leave that video in the description. It is 10 times better than this one, but still, like and subscribe. Anyway, that's it for today. Don't argue with me or say I'm wrong about anything, it's just memes.